You think taking vitamin B12 every day is protecting your health. But the truth is, in some cases, that very habit could be doing the opposite, and most people have no idea it is happening. What makes this especially concerning is that there are no clear warning signs. You do not feel pain, you do not feel dizzy, and there is nothing that makes you stop and question your daily routine. Everything feels normal on the surface, but beneath that, something much more subtle can begin to develop over time, especially if you are over the age of 60 and taking certain common medications. This is not about a rare condition or an unusual mistake. It is about a combination that happens every single day. A vitamin that is widely trusted and often recommended, paired with medications that millions of people rely on. Separately, they seem harmless. But together, under the wrong conditions, they can quietly interfere with how your body processes essential nutrients in a way that most routine checkups never fully reveal. What makes this even more frustrating is that your standard blood tests can still come back looking completely normal. Your vitamin levels may appear high. Your doctor may say everything looks fine. And yet, there could be an underlying imbalance developing that slowly increases stress on your blood vessels over time. In this video, you are going to understand exactly what is happening inside your body when vitamin B12 interacts with certain medications commonly used after the age of 60. You will learn why this issue often goes unnoticed, what specific combination creates the problem, and most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. Because this is not about avoiding vitamin B12. It is about using it the right way so that what you believe is helping you does not quietly work against you. Most people believe that the more vitamins they take, the better their health will be. It feels logical. If your body needs nutrients, then giving it more should only help. But research over the past decade has started to show that this is not always true, especially when supplements interact with medications. In fact, one large study found that older adults who took high doses of certain B vitamins over a long period of time did not always see improved cardiovascular health. In some cases, the risk actually increased under specific conditions. That finding surprised a lot of people because it challenged something we tend to assume is always safe. The reason comes down to how the body processes nutrients, not just how much you take. Your body is not simply absorbing everything you give it and using it perfectly. It depends on a chain of processes working together correctly. And when one part of that chain is disrupted, the outcome can be very different from what you expect. This is where Margaret's story becomes important. Margaret is 69 years old, a retired nurse who has always taken her health seriously. She spent decades caring for others, and after retirement, she made it a priority to take care of herself. She walks every morning, eats a balanced diet, and never misses her daily supplements. Vitamin B12 was one of the first things she added to her routine because she knew that as people get older, absorption can decline. For years, Margaret felt like she was doing everything right. But there was one detail that never seemed important at the time. She had been taking metformin for type 2 diabetes for nearly 7 years. It was just part of her routine, like everything else. Over time, she began to notice a subtle kind of fatigue. Not the kind that makes you want to sleep, but a steady feeling of low energy that never really goes away. She brushed it off as part of aging. After all, nothing else seemed wrong. During a routine checkup, her doctor ran additional blood work, including a test that is not usually part of standard panels. The results told a very different story. Her vitamin B12 levels were high, exactly what you would expect from someone taking supplements regularly. But at the same time, another marker in her blood was also elevated to a level that raised concern. That marker was homocysteine, and what it revealed was that something inside Margaret's body had not been working the way it appeared on the surface. She was not lacking vitamin B12. In fact, she had plenty of it. But the way her body was processing it had quietly changed over time, creating a problem she never saw coming. To understand what happened to Margaret, you need to look at what is happening beneath the surface where the body processes vitamin B12. Inside your digestive system, there is a special protein called intrinsic factor. You can think of it as a delivery system. Its job is to bind with vitamin B12 and carry it through your digestive tract so it can be properly absorbed and used by your body. Without this process working correctly, it does not matter how much B12 you take because your body cannot fully utilize it. This is where metformin begins to change things. Over time, especially with long-term use, metformin can interfere with how intrinsic factor functions. It does not shut the system down completely, but it makes it less efficient and less reliable. As a result, vitamin B12 may still show up in your bloodstream, but it is not always being processed in the way your body actually needs. On the surface, everything can look fine. Your blood test shows adequate or even high levels of B12. But what those numbers do not always reveal is what happens next in the chain. When vitamin B12 is not properly utilized, it affects how your body manages a naturally occurring substance called homocysteine. Homocysteine is an amino acid that your body produces every day. In normal conditions, it is quickly converted into other useful substances with the help of vitamin B12, vitamin B6 and folate. This process keeps its levels low and harmless. But when that conversion process is disrupted, homocysteine begins to build up in the bloodstream. And this is where the real problem begins. Elevated homocysteine does not cause sudden symptoms. It works slowly and quietly. Over time, it starts to irritate and damage the inner lining of your blood vessels. Imagine the inside of your arteries as a smooth, flexible surface that allows blood to flow easily. Now imagine that surface being gradually worn down, becoming rough and inflamed. That is the effect elevated homocysteine can have. As this irritation continues, your arteries begin to lose their natural flexibility. They become stiffer, less responsive, and more vulnerable to the buildup of plaque. Small particles in the blood can more easily stick to these damaged areas, forming deposits that narrow the vessels over time. Even more concerning is that these plaques can become unstable. Instead of staying in place, they are more likely to break loose and travel through the bloodstream. When that happens, they can block smaller vessels in critical areas, such as the brain or the heart. This is how a process that starts silently without any warning signs can eventually lead to serious events like a stroke or other forms of cardiovascular damage. Now, metformin is only one part of the picture. There is another group of medications that affects vitamin B12 in a completely different way, and in some cases even more unpredictably. These are medications used to treat acid reflux, commonly known as proton pump inhibitors or PPIs. If you have ever taken medication for heartburn or acid reflux, there is a good chance you have used one of these. They are widely prescribed, especially for people over the age of 60, because digestive changes make reflux more common over time. On the surface, they are very effective. They reduce stomach acid and provide relief from discomfort. But stomach acid is not just there to cause symptoms. It plays an essential role in breaking down the food you eat, including releasing vitamin B12 from the protein it is attached to in food sources. When stomach acid is reduced over long periods of time, that process becomes less efficient. Your body has a harder time extracting vitamin B12 from what you eat. Over months and years, this can lead to lower effective levels of B12, even if your diet has not changed. At that point, the common solution is to add a supplement. And again, on the surface, this seems like the right move. But here is where things become more complicated. In some individuals, especially older adults, the body does not always process and regulate supplemental B12 in a stable way, when the digestive environment has been altered for a long time. Absorption can become inconsistent. Some days it is higher, some days it is lower. And when that happens, the system that controls homocysteine becomes less predictable as well. Instead of maintaining a steady balance, it begins to fluctuate. And over time, those fluctuations can contribute to the same problem we discussed earlier, the gradual buildup of homocysteine in the bloodstream. What makes this situation even more concerning is how rarely it is detected early. Most routine blood tests focus on common markers such as cholesterol, blood sugar, and sometimes total vitamin B12. But total B12 does not tell the whole story. It does not show how much of that vitamin is actually active and usable inside your body. And more importantly, most standard panels do not include homocysteine at all. That means a person can go through regular checkups for years, be told that everything looks normal, and never realize that this silent imbalance is developing in the background. By the time symptoms appear, the process has often been building for much longer than anyone expected. This is exactly what happened in Helen's case. Helen is 76 years old and has been living on her own for several years. She has always been independent, managing her daily routine without much difficulty. Like many people her age, she had been dealing with acid reflux for a long time, and her doctor prescribed a proton pump inhibitor to keep it under control. She had been taking it consistently for over a decade. A few years ago, she also started taking vitamin B12 supplements after hearing that it could help with energy and overall health. It became part of her daily routine, something she never questioned. For the most part, Helen felt fine. She stayed active, took care of her home, and did not experience any major health issues. But over time, there was a subtle shift. She began to feel more fatigued than usual. Not enough to alarm her, just enough to feel like something was slightly off. It was her daughter Emma who noticed the change first. Emma had come across information about how certain medications could affect nutrient absorption, and she encouraged Helen to get a more detailed set of tests done, including one marker that is rarely checked. When the results came back, they were surprising. Helen's standard numbers looked normal. Her cholesterol was controlled, her blood pressure was stable, and her vitamin B12 level appeared to be within range. But her homocysteine level told a completely different story. It was significantly elevated at a level associated with increased cardiovascular risk. Helen was shocked. She felt fine. There were no clear symptoms, nothing that suggested a serious problem. And yet, the underlying process had already been developing quietly. The good news is that once you understand what is happening, there are clear and practical steps you can take to correct it. The first step is to test the right markers. If you are taking medications like metformin or a proton pump inhibitor, it is important to check not only your total vitamin B12 level, but also your homocysteine, and if possible, your active B12. These give a much clearer picture of how your body is actually using the vitamin. The second step is to look at the form of B12 you are taking. Many supplements use a form that requires multiple conversion steps before the body can use it. In older adults, especially those on long-term medications, those conversion steps may not work efficiently. Choosing a form that is already active can make a meaningful difference. The third step is to adjust the dosage. More is not always better. In many cases, a moderate and consistent amount is more effective than very high doses that the body cannot fully process. The fourth step is to support the system as a whole. Vitamin B12 does not work alone. It relies on other nutrients such as vitamin B6 and folate to properly regulate homocysteine levels. And finally, one of the most important steps is to have a direct and informed conversation with your doctor. Instead of asking general questions, bring this up as a specific topic. That conversation alone can help you make more informed decisions about both your medications and your supplements. What you have learned today is not that vitamin B12 is harmful. In fact, your body needs it especially as you get older. It plays an important role in your energy, your brain function, and your overall health. The real issue is not the vitamin itself, but how it is used and how it interacts with other things happening in your body. From my perspective, this is one of those situations where good intentions can quietly lead to the wrong outcome. People take supplements because they want to stay healthy, to stay independent, and to take control of their well-being. But without the right information, even the best habits can sometimes work against you over time. When vitamin B12 is combined with certain medications like metformin or acid reflux treatments, the way your body processes it can change in ways that are not obvious. Your blood tests may still look normal. You may feel fine and nothing seems out of place. But underneath, there can be a slow imbalance developing that most people never think to check. That is why awareness matters more than anything else. Not fear, not panic, just awareness. Knowing what to ask, knowing what to test, and understanding how your body actually responds to what you take every day. If you are over the age of 60 and currently taking vitamin B12, especially alongside long-term medications, it may be worth taking a closer look. A simple conversation with your doctor along with the right tests can give you a much clearer picture of what is really happening. And just as important, this video is not meant to replace medical advice. Every person is different, and any changes to your supplements or medications should always be discussed with a qualified healthcare professional who understands your specific situation. If this helped you see something you were not aware of before, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. Sometimes, the most valuable information is the kind that prevents a problem before it starts. Take care of your health. Stay informed and remember, small adjustments made at the right time can make a meaningful difference in the long run.